Cathy Heller. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Mom Curious podcast. I am so delighted and grateful that you took the time. First and foremost, let us introduce you. And would you introduce yourself actually to the Mom Curious crowd? I'm sure they probably know you already, but if they don't, maybe in your own words, would you let us know?
Well, I'm so happy to be here. I like you a lot. I love that we got to meet and connect, and you just have such a loving, vibrant presence that it's so fun to hang out. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. They are all girls, 6, 9, and 11. And
Mm.
that keeps me very busy and learning and growing in new ways all the time. And when my husband and I got married, I was a songwriter. I used to write music for TV shows like Grey's Anatomy and um, Parks and Rec and Witched at Birth and Younger and One Tree Hill and McDonald's commercials. I did that for a
Mm-hmm.
decade. And my husband was a lawyer. And then I started a podcast about 6.5 years ago. And the podcast I started it in my closet. And next thing I knew, it became this thing that Apple promoted. And then the Apple feature got us a bunch of listeners. And then I got a sponsor. And then I got a book deal. And it was just kind of this like process of synchronicities that kind of turned the podcast into a really big deal, which allowed my husband to retire actually. Cause
Wow.
some YouTube channels can take off and become multi-million-dollar channels. And that's kind of what happened with my podcast, but it was very unintentional. I was very unattached to that outcome. And so he was able to stop being a lawyer. And now he just does stand-up comedy when he wants to. And he helps raise the kids with me much more so than he was. He was used to be at work, and I podcast and I teach, and the podcast really helps people to find their real passion project in this life and
Mm.
get paid to do it. Because I feel like, and we'll talk about why I don't think abundance is hard, why I think it's our natural birthright, and why
Mm.
we'll just talk all about my language around that and how it's so right here for all of us. But that's really what I do is I help people step into a life that feels really abundant in every way.
Mm.
And it's nice to be here.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you're doing such beautiful work in the world because I think if each of us was lit up, if each of us woke up really happy doing what we're doing, getting paid for what we're doing, we would have a happy society, happier,
Mm-hmm.
at the very least. It's interesting that you mentioned like the language around money and abundance because, I don't know that all of us have like responsible, respectful language around money. And I'm wondering if you can zone in on what you mean by the language you use. Because, even in our chat before, we were talking about our chat before you came on with the team there, we were talking about, well, if people are thinking about being mothers, they really do have to, a lot of people wouldn't even consider being a parent because they would be afraid of the cost or of the time commitment and the how it takes you away from your child. I remember reading one of your posts saying it was the opposite for you. So I would love to hear what that experience was. How um how having a
Yeah.
child impacted the way you made money.
Yeah, you're asking a lot of really good questions. So let's see if we can, take one bite of the apple and then we'll take another and we'll see like how far we get because these are all important things. But um, first of all, we have to define what our goals are, right? And so often people have so many interesting subconscious beliefs about things that we kind of mix metaphors, so to speak. And what I mean is, I think the first thing everybody wants is to feel good.
Hmm.
Like if you had a choice between feeling lousy or feeling the way the Dalai Lama looks like he feels every day, I think you'd go, no, I want to feel that. So let's talk about that for 1 second. You'll see where I'm going with this. But
Yeah.
why does he look like he's not happy, but he's actually joyful? Because his sense of joy comes from within. What do most people do?
Hmm.
Most people don't realize that they're unconsciously running a program in their brain of 70,000 thoughts a day that make them feel bad. And when I say make them feel bad, I mean actually make them feel bad because every thought actually generates a chemical response in the brain. Some thoughts give you dopamine, and that's a happy feeling, but most of the thoughts actually give you a feeling that makes you leak cortisol into your body, that actually makes you feel sluggish and stressed, and
Mm.
speeds up your heart. So why that's important is because we're sometimes, and I'm going to keep going further and further, but sometimes we are equating money with happiness,
Mm.
and we're just not aware that we're really in control of where we're putting our focus. And your thoughts are what's going to make a vibration inside of your actual body. And nobody can focus for you. Nobody can perceive reality for you. And the
Mm.
Dalai Lama is going to be happy no matter where he is, right? He'll be happy in traffic on the
Mm.
405 freeway. He'll be happy in exile in Tibet, which is where he is most of the time. He'll be happy anywhere because his happiness is from within. It's from the lightness of his own being. It's from
Mm.
choosing to focus his attention in such a mindful way that he finds peace. So that's important because now everything else, right? A pile of stuff. You didn't come to the world because you want a pile of stuff, a pile of money, a pile of cars, a pile of houses. You really don't, right? In fact, the things that make us feel the most dopamine inside of our brain and body, this is what's interesting in the research. It's the feeling of enthusiasm, it's the feeling of creativity, it's the feeling of equanimity. It means being unattached to outcomes and just having fun with the process. It means getting so excited about an idea. It means finding areas in our life where we can be brave and courageous and showing up and doing that. We get so much juice and literal satisfaction out of that. So even if you had the pile of stuff, even if you had a pile of money and the car and the house, you would literally want to do it again and again and again and again, because the fun is the video game. The fun is finding those feelings inside of yourself. So even if you build a company, I had Howard Schultz on my podcast. He built Starbucks, became a billionaire, grew up in public housing, went from literally below the poverty line to billionaire, decided to retire, went right back to Starbucks as CEO, because the most fun thing in the world is not having the stuff. It's generating the, oh my gosh, you know, it's a great idea. I want to make something else. I want to make something else. Our favorite thing is turning thoughts into things. Our favorite thing is finding our edge, finding our contrast and going, boom, I got this. I'm going to be courageous here. I'm going to make a move here. That's the momentum. It's not a pile of stuff. So this is why money to me is so easy to talk about. I don't feel like it's
Mm.
hard. I don't feel like it's triggering. I feel like it's hard and triggering when people are actually unconsciously codependent and they've made money into the root of their happiness or lack
Mm.
thereof. It has nothing to do with your happiness, nothing at all to do with your happiness. Your happiness will always be generated from one thing and one thing only, which is, where is your focus? What is your thought in this moment? Your thought creates your vibration. What are you thinking about? What are you feeling? That will literally decide. You could be on the most beautiful beach in the world with your favorite people, and you could be stressed that someone just talked to you in a way you didn't like and you didn't stand up for yourself. Right?
Totally. How many
So,
times has that happened?
and you could be having a moment where you're at the DMV, but for some reason a Jason Mraz song comes on. You're waiting for your turn. This woman who you don't know smiles at you, and you go, life is pretty
Mhm.
good right now.
Mhm.
I'm aware of what actually creates happiness and well-being, and what it is again and again and again is our own accountability to where we're putting our focus. So
Mm.
once we know that, now let's talk about abundance. What is abundance? Abundance is that. It's that feeling of well-being. What's the opposite of that? Lack mentality. I'm a victim to what this person just said to me. Now I'm going to be pissed for 4 hours. That's not abundance. Now I feel like crap, right? Because my dad, because my neighbor, because there's traffic. That's the opposite of abundance. Why do I say that? Because there's a law of resonance in the universe. When there's a guitar on the table and it plays a C note,
Mhm.
the guitar sitting in the room near it, the C note vibrates, the C string vibrates, because there's literally, what goes out literally comes back. The other strings on the other guitar don't vibrate, only the C note. So what does that mean? If two girls move in together in college and they room together and one person has a period, next thing you know, they're menstruating at the same time. There's a law of actual resonance. Literally things are moving. The universe, the actual universe is not net negative and it's not net neutral, it's net positive. If you cut your finger when you're slicing grapes, your body immediately goes into repair. Within 4 hours, things are different. 2 days later, you don't even have a scar on your finger, depending on the size of the cut. You're not in a universe that's net neutral. It's net positive. Everything's moving together. Everything's moving to order constantly, constantly, constantly. That's abundance. So is that triggering? Not at all. It's the most awesome
Mm-mm.
thing to know that every acorn is the promise of thousands of forests. Why would that be triggering? The law of the nature that we're existing in is this universe is literally forever and ever and ever expanding. It is abundant. It is infinite. There's plenty for every eagle. There's plenty of sky. For every redwood, there's plenty of height. There's plenty, plenty, plenty. No, that's not triggering at all. It's
Mm.
the that's why I started with what makes you happy, because when you're unconsciously running a program which tells you things like things don't work out for me, I'm not enough, I hate my life, I have nothing to give, we're now going to be triggered by everything, including money, because we will decide that people who have money are happier than we are. That's also not true. So that's
No.
why I started with the happiness. So
Mhm.
why is abundance available? Because it's the law of receptivity, right? I studied Kabbalah for 3 years in Israel and living in Jerusalem. And my rabbi taught me that the word Kabbalah means to receive. What does that mean? It means that life is actually more like a radio than anything else. Why? If you have a radio sitting here right now, right now today, depending on where I tune the receiver, I could hear salsa music in this room right now. There are frequencies I can tune into where my receiver, I have to have the right receiver, right? And then if I tuned it again, I can hear hip hop music. If I tune it again, I can hear pop music. If I tune it again, I can hear a sports announcer. Well, what happens is people, again, don't understand the law of receptivity. So they think that what's happening in their life has nothing to do with where they're tuned to, but it's everything. If you
Mm.
watch a movie with, like, I'm going to use her as an example, Zoe Deschanel, she kind of looks like that girl they always cast as the girl who's just happily doing her own thing. What
Mhm.
happens? Every guy on the street wants to date her. Why? She's in wholeness. She's in resonance. What about the girl who goes out, who tries really hard, who puts on the right makeup, and she's seeking, she's needing something to make her whole? That actually repels people. So, how does abundance come into our life? When you are abundance, when you don't need it, you're not attached to that being the root of your well being. You feel good, you're feeling excited, and every single dollar ever created in the world came on the other side of a creative idea. Somebody solved a problem, whether you were Jim Henson creating a
Mm.
puppet, or
Right.
you were, and that solves a problem called creativity and expansion and opens people's minds and storytelling,
And
or you're
fun.
solving the problem of like making a Q-tip, like on the other side of a creative idea. So creativity has to happen and you have to solve problems. But guess what? When the feeling good is something you've already got your handle on because your thoughts are not running amok, you've got some well-being. When you've got some well-being, you've got the creativity pumping, you've got the willingness to try stuff. So starting a
Mm.
business is not that hard when you're in resonance, when you're at peace, when you're not attached. And then you know what happens? You make money really easily because your buyers don't feel like you need them to buy. So no, I don't find abundance tricky to talk about at all. And I think that's why no matter what I've done, I came out here to be a songwriter. I got dropped from a record label, started writing music directly for TV shows and films, and I made hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it was so much fun. And then I wanted other creatives of mine, friends of mine, to make money, and I started leading workshops for all creatives. And then I started this podcast, and then that turned into multi-millions of dollars. And now I coach and write books, and it's just like there's money everywhere. It's all around us. It's you don't have to create the market. It already exists. So our job is just, can you open your arms and be a part of it and have fun? And the real trick of it is, I'm going to say this again, this is the last thing I'll say, I didn't need any of it. That was the whole reason it came in. I'm serious. Like, I was having fun. People say to me, how though can you be patient before? How can you be patient on your way to $100,000, on your way to $1 million? And I say to them the truth. I say it all the time. My kids hear me say it, and I mean it. I have no patience. I'm the least patient person. So then they'll say, well, I don't understand. I go, yeah, because there was nothing to be patient about because I was having fun in the moment.
Mm.
I don't need, when I did the podcast the first time, I wasn't like, this better pay off. I better have 100,000 downloads. When I wrote the first song, I wasn't thinking, I better get a record deal. I was thinking, that was so much fun. That's abundance. It's the happiness quotient. It's being accountable.
Mm.
It's taking care of your perception. It's taking care of your focus. The money is a byproduct of that.
Mm.
And you don't need it anyway. Because the thing I still want to do every day, create podcasts, make new businesses, come up with philanthropic things that I can get my hands in. I'm now creating this whole program at my kids' school about mindfulness. All I
Oh,
want to do is create. Of course, that's where all the happiness is. I don't care about the pile of stuff. That's just a byproduct.
I find the pile of stuff to be kind of stressful actually. I mean, I'm grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
Very grateful for it, but then I have to like organize it, donate it, deal with it,
Yeah,
then
you
buy
become
it
like a
again.
custodian of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you become a custodian of stuff. And now you have to be responsible and, all of that stuff. And yeah, there's a level of that. And it's also awesome. I love that my kids and we were just talking about this resort we're going to, and my kids fly first class. And I think it's great. I think it's great that they've learned that having money doesn't mean choosing your integrity or not. Like the people they're
Mm,
around, the people we've gotten to become
yeah.
friends with through the podcast, they're just the kindest people in the world. Deepak Chopra, my kids have met, like, he's very wealthy and so kind. Like, I think it's great that they see that
Yeah.
money is totally mutually non-exclusive. Like the Talmud says that money is like rain falling in a garden.
Mm,
So what does that mean? It says, well, if rain falls on a weed will grow bigger. And if rain falls on a rose will grow bigger. What does that mean? If you're someone that's out of integrity and you get any energy, right? You'll have more energy. If cancer cells continue to get energized from something that's giving them a drip that keeps them sustaining themselves, they'll grow, right? So if you're a person who's out of integrity and you get more fuel, it's like Biff and the Almanac, right? In Back to the Future, he just becomes more of a jerk. But if you're someone who has integrity, if you're a rose bush and you get more rain, more roses grow. So I see that everywhere. I see tons of people who have no money and they have integrity and they're beautiful people. I see
yeah.
people who have no money who have no integrity and they're awful. I see people who have a lot of money and no integrity and they're awful. We all can think of those people. And I can tell you a list of people who have money who are amazing. And how do you know? Because every time you visit a hospital, look at the building, there's 12 names on it. Every time you go to the theater, look at the building, there's 12 names on it. Every time there's a new clinical trial, look at the website, there's 4 names on it. Like someone somewhere is donating some money. That's why the world is moving around and around. And not only that, but like think about Reese Witherspoon. I don't think of her as like this like Mother Teresa, but when she just sold her company for $1 billion, I thought that is awesome.
Yeah.
She's a great example of a woman making money, having fun, not doing anything unscrupulous, and like paving the way for other women to be in this business of creating content. It's freaking awesome. Like there's nothing wrong with it, right? And
But why do we think there is? Or I know that you don't, obviously.
no,
But just based on the intro, right? So I said it was triggering or that it was hot or that whatever it is or that
yeah.
and the reference of, knowing kind people who are wealthy,
Mhm.
why do we even need to say it? I wonder what
Because it's
that
conditioning. Because
it's
it's
conditioning.
conditioning. Because people think about all the archetypes and the characters. Scrooge is this like rich, miserly, horrible person. I mean, those are the things that people do. Why? Because look it, people want to not take responsibility. So
Mm,
if they're unhappy, they want to make it about the money. It's not about the money anyway.
mm,
So, but then they think it is, which is the biggest problem. That's why it's got the bad reputation, because people think that happiness is money. They've put money on such a high pedestal that then they've made it that, well, because I'm not happy, it's because I don't have access to happiness. And the people with money do. It's like a lot of those people are not happy. Happiness and money are not, those are just, you wouldn't say, well, the amount of oxygen you have, the amount of Wi Fi you have, be careful. If you have too much Wi Fi, people won't like you. Because, well, the truth is, what's the difference between Wi-Fi, oxygen, and money? You need oxygen to live. You need Wi-Fi to get online, to do anything these days, to interact. I mean, we just don't put those images out there, right? We just haven't done
mm,
that with money. There's something so gross that we've even put it on that pedestal, when really the most impressive things are people's love, conviction, compassion. Why are you not talking about that? Why are we not saying that person has a
mm,
lot of conviction? Maybe I should be jealous of them, because the truth is I want
mm.
that conviction. Why don't you see that
Mm,
in movies? Right? Why don't you say that person has so much generosity to give? Maybe I am jealous of that. Maybe that is triggering because that's really what would make me happy. They've done studies where they say to people, "What do you think will make you happier?" Like, I want more money." Like, great, they give them money. They do their blood work at the end of the week. They do a psychological evaluation at the end of the week. They're not happier. Then they take them another week. They say, "We want to see if this will make you happier. We're going to give you money that you can give away." And people give money away and they're happier. And their immunity is literally functioning different because
oh,
happiness, we only get in this life that which we give away. If you ask somebody, why do you love your dog? Why do you love the animals, the plants you take care of? Why do you love your kids? You love most that which you invest yourself in. Parents love their
mm,
kids more than the kids love the parents because the parents give to the kids. Even a baby that's waking you up at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. and 5 a.m., you love this thing so much. You know why? Because you love that which you give to. The more you give, the more you get back. So it's all screwed up, the things that we put on pedestals. So, yeah, most people are putting their happiness on something that's outside of them that they can't attain. And therefore, people who have it are horrible because they have access to happiness and they don't. But that's not where happiness is. It doesn't
mm.
matter. It's besides the point.
Oh, hello, friends. It's me, Daniella Rabani, the host of the Mom Curious podcast, just chiming in here to say thanks for listening. I have a podcast brother. His name is Harry Hill, and he hosts a podcast called Harry Tales. And I wanted to take a short break to share this wonderful podcast with you. So, Harry Tales with Harry Hill is a podcast focused on New York City, pop culture, and the life of comedian and influencer Harry Hill. He talks about his fast paced influencer lifestyle in the city with comedy and wit, and will leave you doubled over with laughter. I can attest he's actually like, besides being hilarious online and on his podcast, he's just like a really funny, sweet, stylish guy in real life. And we also share an amazing fairy pod mother, Laura, who I know many of our loyal listeners have already heard before. So listen to his podcast wherever podcasts at Harry Tales. That's HarryTales with Harry Hill. All right, now back to the episode. It's besides the point. Well, it's also not the starting point. Happiness starts from you. That's your real birthright, is your
Yeah, well,
own
that's what I'm
bliss.
saying. Wherever you're focused, you could be sitting on the same bench in Central Park with two other people in the same moment, same, same climate, and you all feel different things because of where your thoughts are at. That's what determines your happiness, is where you put your focus. Focus equals feeling, focus equals your attention, and that equals how you feel. And that's it. That's really all we have control over. So, what are we focusing on? How happy are you right now? And then I ask people that. And most of the time, it's shocking. People will say, you know what? I feel pretty miserable most of the time. It's like,
Mm,
wow, why do you think you're doing that? You know why? Because your brain is running an automatic program. Just because you think it doesn't make it true, but your brain has something awesome called neuroplasticity. If you start to become conscious of where you go unconscious, you can wake up every morning and say, I'm going to start with my day with 3 minutes of a new paradigm. And every single day, I will not miss a day, 3 minutes a day. I'm going to say, these are the things that will feel the best to me. How do I want to feel today? I want to feel love today. So I'm going to feel that in my body. I'm going to think about someone I love. I want to feel gratitude today. So I'm going to think about something that brings me gratitude. I want to feel creative today. So I'm going to work a tiny bit on a creative project. I
mm,
want to feel expansion and bravery today. So I'm going to reach out and text that person who I want to say that thing to. Right. And it's just like, you start your day like that, and you don't leave it up to chance that you're just going to keep recycling these old thoughts, because you will. If you don't come for it, that software that's been installed since you were a kid is just going to play. So we've got to utilize, I mean, if you look at everybody that I've interviewed on the podcast, every single one of these billionaires, millionaires, creatives, they all have a morning practice. Why? Because everybody has a subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind, whether you like it or not, is going to account for 95% of your thoughts, which makes up 95% of how you feel, which actually affects your biology.
Do you have a
So,
morning practice?
Yeah, so every single day for years, I wake up and I meditate or I listen to something that's like a meditation and I get into that state and I generate from within myself a higher consciousness, something that's more aware. And I notice, oh my God, look how familiar it was for me to just start complaining in my head. No way, not today. I can't,
Mm,
it costs me too much. So I have to come out of that. So I spent 3 years in Israel studying Kabbalah. And then when I came to LA, I spent 3 years studying mindfulness at UCLA and got certified in meditation. And then I did that a lot. And then after doing it for so many years, it just cumulatively, it has a cumulative effect on you
mhm.
to where
Yeah.
you just fire and wire new circuitry. So by and large, even if I miss a day of meditation, it's kind of like if you've gone to the gym so often that when you go to lift groceries, you can lift them. It's like that. There's literally a muscle at the front of your brain in this prefrontal cortex, and it gets actually literally thicker. Like monks have
Mm.
this really thick tissue here. And so they find their Zen so fast. They find their way to the moment so fast. They don't spiral. So am I like that? No, nowhere close. But am I further along in my well being? Like I kind of start my day at a 10, actually. And then it takes a lot for me to get thrown into an 8 or a 7. And then if I
Mm.
do, because something bothers me, I notice it pretty fast. And then I bring myself back to a 10 because I know what generates my own well being. I know that it's not based on needing someone's approval, or I don't need something in the atmosphere to change. I need to just change my state of being. So I can do that now because I've been just doing that for 20 years.
I think music also rewires the brain in a beautiful way. I mean, you
Yeah.
immersed yourself in music for so long.
Music is
You can
amazing.
feel it when you're like in with an orchestra. You can
Mm-hmm.
feel um, a higher state of consciousness, a
Yeah.
flow state. I'm sure that has something to do with it too. I
Oh,
mean, I could
music
be.
is amazing. I mean, literally, frequency is what we're made of. Like, you know, we look physical, but we just don't know anything about the universe, right? Einstein would tell you, I can assure you the world is made of energy. And then you would say, that sounds woo. And he would say, well, no, let me actually show you in a microscope that every single thing is made of atoms. And atoms are 99% energy and 1% particles. That's just the science. It's just math. You can't argue with 2 plus 2 is 4. That's just science. So why do I say that? Because every single thing emits a frequency, emits a vibration. You can't hear every one of them. Dogs can hear things we can't hear, right? Radio receptors can hear things you and I can't hear. But the bottom line is everything is energy. So everything emits a frequency. So why is that actually science, what you just said? Because literally there are certain frequencies that when we're dipped in them, you go to a sound bath, you listen to an orchestra, you're literally like dialing yourself into alignment just by being in those vibrations because your body feels sound vibration because it actually emits sound vibration, which is why Malcolm Gladwell says if you walk into a room within 4 seconds, people around feel how you are. We get a
Mm,
sense. He wrote in the book Blink, like 4 seconds in, you know this person's energy. It's actually through the vibration that they're sending out. You might not think you hear it, but your body feels it.
mm.
So we live in a vibrational field, which is why, again, that is abundance. There's only one field. So you having more of something actually just creates more for someone else because your vibration is then higher consciousness, higher vibe. You just actually gave that to people. You had more Wi Fi then, so to speak, when you walked in the room, you give other people Wi Fi. So this whole concept of understanding physics and understanding the laws of nature and understanding it all helps you understand happiness and money and all that stuff because the universe is designed for us all to co-create as much as we can. And it only helps when you paint your house, your neighbor's house goes up in property value.
I
When
love
you walk
that.
into a room happy and you're genuinely happy, you just gave somebody good vibes immediately. And if you have a beautiful bead store on Main Street, you can take the money from that and go buy the coffee from the guy next door and you can employ 2 people and it's just like abundance only creates more abundance. So it's
Mm.
no, it's not a hot topic. It's just that we see so limited and we see each other as egos and we see ourselves as egos and we see everything as separate. So then we don't know how this all weaves together. But there's
Yeah.
really only oneness. That's really all that exists is this one energetic field, literally. We just don't really see it that way because our eyeball perceives things in cubes. So it looks very separate and it looks very physical.
And there's fear. There's a real fear that I, have to honor in order to transcend if I hold this place as a sort of host for these questions. There is real fear for people starting families who don't necessarily know that they'll be um, supported financially in the way that they need to as they level up, as more people come into the picture. And that fear isn't, of course, helping anyone. I read in one of your posts around Mother's Day that it was actually your children, the more that you invested in your both your child and yourself, the more you got back from the world. And I just would love to hear more about that experience because it's not something that we hear a lot about. I think that fear around money and family um, does circle around quite a lot. And children are expensive. That's a real thing. The more we invest in the fear, the more we put our attention on the fear, the more we put our attention on the separateness, the less likely we are to enjoy the real juicy abundance available to us, including that love between, mother and child.
Yeah, I mean, my experience growing up was that my mom had all these like beautiful gifts and dreams, and she never pursued them because she thought she had to choose between having herself and having kids. And she was like in high school, she was the lead in every play. And the woman who was her understudy in her senior play, my mom had the leading role. This other woman was like in the background. And when they graduated from high school, this woman said, let's go audition for the Broadway show Little Shop of Horrors. And my mom said no. And she went, and this woman got the part, the lead role as Audrey, Ellen Green. She was in on Broadway. And then they did the movie version with Rick Moranis and Steve Martin. And this woman who was my mom's understudy all through high school, she got the part in the movie. And my mom told me that story when I was growing up. My mom's like, this is crazy. Like, I could have been there at that audition. I got every role. Like, chances are I could have gotten either that role or another role, right?
Yeah.
Stands to reason. And when I got to the age of wanting to have kids, I was like, okay, that is a cautionary tale. I will never allow my kid to feel that I have this burden now on them where
Yeah.
I gave up my dream in order to be a mom and I'm really resentful and I love my kids, but I'm really bitter. Like, that's just so not okay. And I said, why every possibility exists in this infinite field of possibility. Like, why can't we do both? So it was because I want my own kids to see that they can have both that I said, there's no way, it's not even negotiable for me to give it up. So I started writing music and pursued that and had my kids. And the thing is, we all feel as though somehow,
Hmm.
in order to have a career, you have to do it on other people's terms. But who says that's true? I mean, Tim Ferriss says there's a 4 hour work week. I've never experienced a 4 hour work week, but I can tell you that when I first started my career and I was writing music, I only had 2 days a week where I worked, and the other 3 days I was a mom. Then I had my kids in preschool, and that by that point I had enough money to have, focus on my songwriting full time. And even now, once the business grew to multi-million dollars of dollars, I stopped work at 3 o'clock every single day. So I don't know why we've thought, and I think it's
Hmm.
because a lot of times people spend a lot of time on the wrong things. But if
Hmm.
you really want to grow a business or you really want to do your passion project, John Grisham was writing those novels while he had a 9 to 5 job. He was writing The Firm and all those books on the
Hmm.
train to work. You literally, we just, you know what it is, we just don't have the courage. We psych ourselves out. We think it's all or nothing. So it's like, in order for me to do what I love, I wouldn't be able to have kids, or if I do have kids, I can't do
Hmm.
what I love. It's
Right.
none of that's true. It's
Well,
just
it's
like,
so vulnerable.
bite
It's so
off a tiny
vulnerable.
bit every day.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, fear is so boring. That's the problem with fear. At the end of the day, it's the most boring emotion because, okay, so you'll be comfortable, but you'll be bored. Do you really want to be bored? Do you really
No.
want to not use your strengths? Like, how much Netflix can you watch? These people who say they have no time, they're on the phone 6 hours a day. And the only reason I know that is because the phone records it. So they put it on Google. Google it. That's the average. People are on the phone 4 to 6 hours a day. And then they tell you they have no time and it's their kids. They have to be there for their kids. It's not their kids. It's that you're scrolling, looking at other people's lives. Why? You're looking for a hit of dopamine because you're not being courageous, because you're in fear all day long. This
Mm.
is it. And it's just like, we just don't call it out enough. We
I
just
love
got to
it.
get courageous.
Well, I think, Jung says that there's nothing more painful to a child than the unlived life of the parent.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
It is
wow.
truly painful when I really felt your heart in that story because we love our mothers. They are our movie stars. They are our Broadway stars. The fact that
Totally.
and we would never wanna inflict that type of pain on our children because it is profound to feel like I'm the one to have held this amazing person who gave me life,
Right.
who sustained me, that I would be something to hold her back. I mean, it's a societal norm and it's a problem. It's like not an individual person. There is a collective story here that we're all adopting, which is that we do need to choose, that there should be some sort of um, martyrdom at play or whatever the specifics are. But I agree, it's not true. But it is rather vulnerable to be courageous and to be fully happy and to be fully expressed and to live life on your own terms. It is risky. The alternative is, as you said, boring.
Yeah.
Like, what's the
I
point?
don't know. I mean, the thing is that I kind of call bullshit on that, because life
I'm
is,
I'm here for it.
no, I mean, life is risky. Like,
Mm,
I think what you're really saying is people want to be in control, but they're not. Like, you're never going to control the river. You're not going to control the ocean. There's just, the waves are just going to keep coming.
mm,
So it's like, I think that's ego, right? The ego is
mm.
like, I got to protect, I got to go into fight or flight, I got to look for all the exits, I got to be in control. Our happiest moments are surprise. You go to this party and you meet this guy and you're like, oh my God, that was so great. That was a surprise. I was delighted. That came out of nowhere, right? Your happiest moment is, if you could predict the rest of your life and what it was going to look like every single day from here to the day you died, you would have control and you would hate it. Like,
Yep.
your soul is not interested in anything but taking a risk. Your soul wants an adventure. Your soul is capable. We came here to solve problems. We want to use that part of ourselves. It's, so what that it's a risk. We like risks. We're built to have that. It's just that we've been like coddled and told like, no, 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 stay comfortable. Whoa, that could be risky. Good. That's what you came for. Get it. Go get it, girl. Like, get the risk. Take it. In fact, that's probably the thing you should do. Like, I
It's
don't
funny.
understand. It's such a weird way of looking at life. Most people are like, no, no, I won't take a step until you tell me that this is going to be 2 + 2 = 4 every time. It's like, no, it's not. It'll be 2 + 3 = 29 tomorrow. No, it's not predictable. It's not math. Oh, forget it then. Okay. Well, one day you'll get in the water because all you want is risk. You don't really want anything else.
Risk adventure. Hmm. I mean, that's what I that's what I say I want, but really the fear does hold me back. That's a real experience. The reason why I reached out to you was because you put out a reel that said, "Go, just take a risk right now. Reach out to that person you want to have a conversation with."
Right.
So I did. And I
Mm-hmm.
reached out to you and I said, "Would you come on my podcast?"
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, if I had done that, if I do that all the time, every day, which I'm sure you encourage your coaching clients to do all the time, what could happen? I imagine that's how your podcast started. You took risks. You reached out to people. Was it always an interview style, or did it start with just you riffing? It was
I
always.
think the first couple episodes I was riffing. Then I interviewed people who had careers that came from passions, like a woman I knew who was a director for TV, a guy that I knew who opened a bakery that was doing really well in San Francisco, like stuff like that. And then it turned into like, famous people and those careers. And everybody who came on was a person who took their passion and turned it into lots of profits. So they didn't feel like they were working, right? Because it was something they loved to do. They were getting paid to be themselves. And that
Mm,
was the that was the way that we sort of built it. And now we have episodes where I just kind of riff, or I have coaching clients and I ask for permission to take a clip of what they ask me and we put it on the podcast. It's kind of a hybrid, but there's still a lot
Yeah.
of interviews too.
Yeah, and you have those shorter sort of bite-sized moments of inspiration that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
I love
Thank you
those.
so much.
Thank you so much. What are the risks you're taking these days?
So many good ones. I mean, one of them is slowing down so that instead of working in my business, I'm looking at my business. And I think in the first phase of business, you are looking in, working in, working in, working in. And at a certain point, the next level jujitsu move is actually to step back and look at it and see how it can be more efficient and how you can scale it and how you can hone it and how you can get more aligned in who you are and how you show up differently. So I've been doing a lot of that lately with my team. And one of the things for me is not asking the question of what more can Cathy Heller do in this
Mm,
business, but what more can a team do for me? And so I've had a team, but it's like finding the right people and getting the right things going. And that's been really cool because it helps me look at my relationship to letting in support and how I can dial that in better. Another risk is telling people what I need because I'm
yeah.
very much a person who probably thrived and survived by being an overfunctioner and pleaser. So that's a risk. Another risk is going all in on who I really am, even if it's ruffling feathers to be different. Like,
Mm,
to say, I'm Jewish, I studied in Israel, I like mindfulness. Some people would be like, oh, I'm so turned off. That's so woo. That's okay. It's like one of the risks is double down on who I really am. And that feels really right. Another risk is creating expectations, right? Like, meaning, here's what I'm not doing for you, like just so we're clear about the expectation. Because as a coach, I think a lot of times people become codependent, and I think it's actually very helpful at the beginning to set the expectation that I can never choose for you, I can never be brave for you. So I
mm,
can put out stimulus, I can give you ideas, I can give you energy, I can give you thoughts, I can give you alignment in different ways, and you're still going to have to choose. And I think I more and more say to people, you got to convince me why you are even the right person to enter this world,
mm,
because you have to be accountable and you have to have the guts to show up. And most people, like, they would just rather you convince them that somehow by sitting around you and listening to you, it'll do something, but they've got to do it ultimately.
mm. Yeah. I've been that coaching client, guys. I have been it doesn't yield any results, and weirdly, I walk away being like, "I'm so resentful," and then I
Exactly. I did it recently. I
oof.
had a person who I hired to help me with my nutrition.
Mm,
And that's a really juicy one because what's entangled in that is how much I show up for myself. Do I walk every day? Do I drink water? Like, I can crush it in my business, but do I actually focus on my own like well-being?
mm.
So at the end of the coaching session, she's like, okay, let's do a sum up. How much water do you drink every day? How much good food are you eating like all this stuff. And I was like, I'm not doing great. And there was a moment where I fell into my own victim garbage and I was like, you didn't teach it to me in steps and you did this. And she was like, or I gave you everything and this was so out of your comfort zone and so hard for you to choose. And I was like, you're right. And I didn't ask her for a refund. I was just like, you're right. She's a nutritionist. She gave me all this stuff. She handed it to me, talked to me, and I didn't drink the water.
Right.
I drank
Well,
the coffee every day. And it was just
you're
like, own it,
mm,
own it, own it,
yep.
own it all day, own it. Right.
Well, they
Fine.
can't eat for us. I think actually a
Exactly.
nutritionist is a fantastic example when it comes to coaches because they literally can't chew for us or digest, you know? Like, maybe they could cook for us, but, like, the actual nutrition has to be absorbed by our own cells. So, I had to learn that when it comes to therapy, when it comes to coaching, I'm the per I'm the responsible party. I actually found you. I realized when you said that you've been owning your Judaism, I actually found you online. You had this beautiful video in May of 2021, just weeping
Oh my God.
for Israel
Dying.
and Palestine, and, it took so much, that was a risk, and it's
Such a
interesting,
risk. And I
people
was terrified to do it for like 4 or 5 days when that was happening. I was just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then I was like, wait, I have a point of view. I lived there. I have a point of view. I have something to say. My heart is breaking, just like it's breaking right now for the women in Iran. Like, I have a point of view and I have to say something. And just like I've been saying something about the women in Iran, it was like, I have to say something about this. And it is a risk. Not everybody wants to hear about this stuff. We'd rather talk about the movie you saw last week or what you just bought at the store. But no. And so it was a risk, but that was real. Those are my feelings. It was very painful.
Yeah, it was for me as well. And I think people don't recognize that, like, being outwardly Jewish is an inherent risk, and the reward, in fact, is so great because when you can really enjoy your own self,
Yeah.
like when you can own the miracle of your existence, I can tap into that. I can tap into that bliss, joy,
Yeah.
abundance available to
Yeah.
me when I'm hiding who I am.
Yeah. Well, for 5,000 years, I mean, just like we talked about how people with money have been scrutinized in movies or whatever here and there, all the time. Um, in every culture that Jews have lived in, from ancient Egypt to Spain, the Inquisition, the pogroms in Russia, the Holocaust, like we've literally, like people talk about the Holocaust. I'm like, that's happened in every single era. Like this is actually and it's constant to the point where we don't even notice it. And there's so few Jews in the world. There's only 15 million total Jews in this universe. 15
Mhm.
million, right? There's over a billion um, people of the Islamic faith. There's over a billion people of the Christian faith. So there's
Sure.
very, 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 very few of us. And I think what people don't understand is when something is unknown, it feels scary, right? But one thing that I love about Judaism is that the reason we're so small is because we don't convert other people.
Hmm.
And the reason we don't convert other people is because we don't think anyone needs to be Jewish to go to heaven.
Hmm.
We believe that everybody is connected to God. There's no way that they wouldn't be connected because they're a soul, they're already good. So I don't think people know that, how inclusive and all accepting Judaism is of every single human being who walks the earth.
Yeah, I experience your love of all people through your podcast and through your courses. You are relentless at making sure that we are each person that listens to you, that follows you, that learns from you, that we rise to our greatest selves. Only a person who loves you would expect the best. And
Thank you.
I know that of you, and I appreciate it so much
I
because
do love people. You know why I love all people, no matter what country they're from, no matter what because love is not something you have to earn. It's just something you're given, and it's so easy to love people because at the end of the day, people all want the same thing. They just want to feel at peace.
mm,
And sometimes people feel that certain things are costing them their peace. And we can all do a better job of continuing to listen to each other. I mean, you look at the orchestra and it's like the triangle is the triangle and the bass is the bass. And it's like the cello shouldn't try to be like the drums. It's like everything you go through, it's a small world. It's so beautiful. I want to learn about Morocco and I want to learn why it's different than Tibet. And I want to know why that's different than Chile and Peru and Uruguay. And it's like all the spices and all the flavors and all the different conversations we get to have. That's what makes the world interesting. It's not about being the same, it's about being different and then learning from each other and putting it all together. Then this mosaic is actually so gorgeous. Who would want a mosaic of only one color? It's like one tile. It's like, no, you want to see different tiles and different stones and different textures. And I don't know, it's all really good.
where can we find you, Kathy?
The podcast is called the Cathy Heller Podcast. I'm on Instagram, Cathy Heller. And yeah, that's it, really.
Thank you, as always, for listening to the Mom Curious podcast. My name is Daniella Rabbani. I am your host, and I would love to continue this conversation at Daniella Rabbani on Instagram. And if you'd be so kind to rate and review, share this podcast, I would be just really grateful. Catch you next time, every Tuesday on the Mom Curious podcast, produced by Hoff Studios. You can find them at Hoff Studios on Instagram as well. All right, have a great day.